Ben, let's bring you in because you've been warning and warning over the last few months about the setting up of a new parallel system of government. Our institutions undermined, and probably most people have put the NHS as one of those institutions.
Right at the centre of the entire programme of change, absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. So much excitement last week as the Blob, aka the Slaughterhouse, aka the National Health Service, issued its 10-year plan, much awaited. It's called Fit for the Future. It was presented to us by these two, Keir Starmer, Prime Minister, remarkably for a year now. That's quite amazing. I wonder how much longer he'll last. And also Wes Streeting, Health Secretary. Importantly, crucially, let's keep on pointing this out. Both of them are members of the Fabian Society. Therefore, they are wolves in sheep's clothing. Wolves in sheep's clothing. They want you to know this. They want you to understand this. They are telegraphing to you exactly what they're about. And the change agenda inside the NHS is all part of this attack, essentially, on the British people. Predictably, the talk is all of change and crisis. I'll read a quick quote from the exec summary of the report that says the choice for the NHS is stark: reform or die. We can continue down our current path, making tweaks to an increasingly unsustainable model, or we can take a new course and reimagine the NHS through transformational change that will guarantee its sustainability for generations to come. This plan chooses the latter. It represents a break with the past, a complete break with the past inside the NHS in order to deliver this government's change agenda. It's driven by three fundamental shifts in how the NHS operates, from hospital to community, analog to digital, sickness to prevention. I'll explain a bit more about what those mean later on in the segment. For now, let's just take a little listen to Wes Streeting and his team about how this plan was developed.
In 2025, the government published a 10-year health plan for England. The plan outlines the changes that need to be delivered to make the NHS fit for the future. To understand what the public and health and care staff want to see in the plan and inform its development, the Department of Health and Social Care invited staff and users of the NHS to discuss what they wanted from a future NHS. This conversation received over 250,000 contributions from members of the public and NHS staff.
We're kicking off the biggest conversation in the history of the National Health Service because we can see the scale of the crisis. We've already taken steps to get the NHS back on its feet, but we're also shaping a 10-year plan to make sure the NHS is fit for the future. And I genuinely think, while we could have come in as a government and imposed change, I genuinely think that change is better done with people than to people. And I also think that some of the best ideas we'll get about how the NHS can improve will come from the people on the front line who work in it, and crucially, the patients who use it.
Well, Ben, thank you for that video clip. As I watched it, I was almost back in the little church hall where Plymouth City Council took people for a facilitated big conversation over the changes to local government structure. And here we've got a facilitated big conversation over the NHS taking place.
Facilitated everything. Because they want to hear your opinion, Brian. It's not like they've got a plan already laid out that they just want you to agree to.
Okay.
So it's a national conversation. 250,000 people engaged, apparently. It's all about addressing a crisis. And this is propaganda, right? We have to understand it in those terms. We talked a bit about language, but let's also look at the visuals and the setting for this film that we've just looked at, right? So you mentioned a village hall. It looked like I've written down a bingo hall here. That's what it looked like to me. There was a church. And this is about making the NHS feel authentic to the British people when it is absolutely nothing of the sort, right? Let's hear a little bit more from that film about how the plan was developed.
Throughout the engagement, we've been supported by public dialogue specialists, Thinks Insight and Strategy, and their partners Kaleidoscope Health and Care and the Institute for Public Policy Research. There were lots of different ways for members of the public and health and care staff to shape the plan. From the Change NHS website, where everyone aged 16 and over could have their say, to workshops held by groups and organisations in communities across the country with people who are seldom heard in consultations of this scale. More than 17,000 people participated in this conversation. We also ran deliberative events online and in person across the country with 730 members of the public and 3,000 health and care staff, supporting people from different roles and walks in life to discuss and deliberate key elements of the plan. This also included an event with 27 children and young people aged 7 to 18. We consulted with NHS leaders and partner organisations to understand their perspectives. Finally, we hosted a national summit where almost 300 members of the public and staff from across England came together to share their thoughts on the future of the health service and discuss final proposals for the 10-year plan.
So, of course, the audience couldn't hear what I was saying while that video was playing, but essentially I'm saying the more this lady says, the less the voice of the wider public. And the NHS is consulting 7-year-olds on change in the NHS. Right. That about sums it up. But I'd like to know what a deliberative event is. It sounds very fascinating. This is a complete scam. It's controlled dialogue in order for the government to get what it wanted in the first place.
Yeah, it's smoke and mirrors. Yeah. It's about manufacturing consent. This is an industrial process. If we can just put this up for manufacturing consent to whatever it is that is already on the agenda, and it's about producing quotes like this. You can see here, this is from the plan. There is a need, a real dire need to make it better now, and it is very clear that if something radical doesn't change, then the NHS as we know it will not be able to continue to exist. Apparently that came from a member of the public. Do you think they've been teed up for that, potentially? Yeah. So this is what this is about. It's about delivering quotes like this in a highly stage-managed and controlled environment in order to legitimise the transformation of the health service. And in reality, this is who's been developing the plan. Right, so actually this came from the Health Service Journal, and you can see here they've mapped out 7 distinct groups, 4 of them inside government, a bunch of people who are external influencers, Lord Darzai at Imperial College, Julian Hartley at CQC, Patricia Hewitt, who we've spoken about a lot recently, Mark Britnell, former KPMG. This is who's actually creating this policy. Yeah, and these are the agenda. This is the agenda that it's designed to serve, and all of this is pre-packaged. None of it's new. Most of this we've been reading about for at least the last 5 years. The idea that the public have influenced this in any way is it's deeply, deeply dishonest. So what are we going to get? First thing to know, I'll rattle through this in the interest of time, but it's good. We're spending £200 billion a year on the health service. It doesn't work. And actually that equates to around £500 per taxpayer per month, which I think makes the NHS your second biggest expense behind your rent or your mortgage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? And it doesn't work. And they want to give it more money. And I know they're talking about changing it, but I don't trust these people to change anything, let alone a complex system like the one that we're talking about here. So what's going to happen? There'll be a new operating model. Amazingly, after 75 years, they've discovered that people are quite important. You can see in that sort of round thing at the bottom, we're going to organise the health system around people. Wow, this is incredible insight, the health service. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you did this. Hospitals, community. So we're going to explain a little bit about those 3 trends that I spoke about earlier. So as if we needed more NHS, we're going to have more NHS closer to us in our communities and importantly in our homes, apparently, and on our high streets. So big shift there. A lot of this driven by technology, huge focus on AI. They're absolutely dead set on this single patient record. This is an extraordinarily dangerous development. I know this is all presented about cost saving and efficiency, but it's not. It's about control. It's about surveillance. The shift from sickness to prevention. Difficult to disagree with a lot of the things that they're promoting here, but also difficult to give any credibility to this when they're saying that people should be smoking less and drinking less, but on the same time, the NHS is rolling out things like RNA vaccines and Ozempic and euthanasia and all of the other horrors that we've seen over the past few months, with no doubt more to come. huge investments in technology, all of this coming from external companies in AI, data, genomics, genetic engineering. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago, this biotechnological industry that they're building. And they are rolling this out quickly. They talked about this idea of the faster spread of innovation, getting the basics right, moving these things out into the system as quickly as possible, developing a pro-innovation regulation environment from the MHRA. Yeah, so that worked really well during COVID, didn't it? Yeah, yes. Let's get stuff. It's a market enabler. It's not a regulator. And finally, despite the fact that we're ploughing hundreds of billions a year of tax revenues into this, they're also still going to be going to leverage private sector investment, particularly around neighbourhood health. And under the Blair regime, the PPI that we paid about £300 billion for £50 billion worth of services. So, they clearly haven't learnt their lesson. They're doubling down. And my view, as far as the health system goes, is that we should frankly shut the whole thing down and start again.
There are many people who say that, and I think that's a dialogue we can have in the days to come. But let's get on to something which is very important, and that's a huge thank you to everybody who supports the UK column with a monthly membership or making donations or purchasing through the shop, because you are the ones that keep the UK column going. And it's been your immense support that's allowed us to reach next year, 2026, our 20th anniversary. So huge thank you to everybody who's making that financial input to keep UK column going. Now, we've got an advert here for Germ Warfare tonight at 7 p.m. And that's Andrew Treglier. And we know that germ segments are going down extremely well. So if you haven't seen one of those, do tune in. If you have seen one, join him anyway, and that will be very good. Now, tomorrow at 1 o'clock, an interview that I did with a retired journalist, Eugenie Verney, will be going out. She is an amazing lady talking about a really incredible career in some of the more left-wing papers, some of the very big papers, what she saw and what she learnt from that career. And some of the conversation is comparing her experience during that time with what we now see happening in the press and the media. So watch out for that interview, which will be at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Now, Diane, I look to you for this one, 10th of July, Edinburgh. They're burning books again. What have you got?
Yes, I'm giving a talk for Common Knowledge Edinburgh this Thursday evening. So if you want to join me, please do so. And I'll be talking about a lot of the things I've been covering about libraries the past few months on UK Column, but a lot of other topics. When I say that they're burning books again, the problem is that they are literally removing books out of university libraries, which should be free based on free speech and academic freedom, while at the same time accusing us of burning books in front of children that contains pornographic content and other types of things that we don't think that we should be seeing because it's not age appropriate. So I'm going to be exposing the hypocrisy and some of the ideology behind what's going on and talking about a book that I'm actually writing on this topic. So please join me on Thursday evening.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. We're also reminding people of our UK column on location in York. That will be Saturday, the 18th of October, 2025. We're still teasing over the release of tickets. That will be announced, and we're going to encourage as many people as possible to come to this event, because if we have another successful on location, we're going to look to try and undertake our weekend event for our 20th anniversary next year. So UK column on location in York is a very, very important event. Lovely city, absolutely beautiful hotel. More details on that closer to the time. Now, we've also got the Regional Sovereignty versus Devolution Dissident Meetup for the Southwest region. That will be Sunday, the 20th of July, 9:30 to 4:30. And that's the Field of Dreams, Exeter EX49JL. So have a look at our show notes for more details on that. We've also got the Thetford Truth and Freedom Beer Festival. Now, quite a small event in its overall capacity, but this is getting people to be together to swap ideas and information and have a good time, which has got to be a good thing. We've also got another Freedom Festival coming up, which is 1st to the 3rd of August. That's in Leicester. I think very competitive rates there. Some great speakers, including Andrew Bridgen and John O'Looney, plus music, and obviously great people on the ground, so you can mix and have fun and learn. And then the Freedom Music Fest, 22nd to the 25th of August, 2025, with lots of good music there. That's the bank holiday weekend, and UK Column team will be there. So where do we go from here?